Elliot and Darlene's Christmas morning break-in of Virtual Realty sets the stage for a brilliantly executed episode filled with tension, danger, and only 2 lines of dialogue. This is why we watch this show. It's Mr. Robot. 405, method not allowed. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Mr. Robot. So yes, of course, lots of spoilers ahead. And as always, there is our quick jump index system. Right in the description below, we'll have this entire review titleized, codified, and time-stamped. You can watch the end of the review first. You can watch the beginning last. You can watch this review in any order you'd like. All right, so let's jump right into things. 405. Method not allowed. A standard error code, a web error code, that basically says that the method requested from a server has been recognized but not allowed. A method is basically one of your web verbs, get, connect, delete, post. Your basic command can be a noun like directory and stuff like this, but basically it's a request that you want from the server. But the server is denying that. Now the difference between, say, this and a 404 not found, a 404 not found means that what you're looking for isn't there. A 405 not allowed is, well, what you're looking for, it's there, but what you're asking for me to do, I can't do. It basically means you've got to find a workaround, which is really what this episode is entirely about. It's finding a workaround, whether it's breaking into Virtual Realty in order to create a new identity, a new access code, because Olivia's access to Cyprus National Bank doesn't allow them to transfer funds or do anything. So they got to break into Virtual Realty and create a new identity that will allow them to do that. We, of course, also have Dom doing her own workaround, whether it be in the police station when she attaches the little feeder splitter circuit in the back of that one cop's computer in order to gain access to the police files, the red light cameras, and also starting to do her own little workaround against the Dark Army, keeping track of the vehicles that are watching her mom's place, trying to formulate a plan. And then, of course, we also have Vera doing his own little workaround access to Elliot via Krista. So a lot of workarounds happening in this episode. And, of course, really the best part of this episode is the fact that it is, yes, almost entirely without dialogue. Brilliantly, they kind of brilliantly bookend with perfect lines. When Darlene goes to pick up Elliot after seeing the smoke and the whole destruction of the van, she says, "It's cool, we don't have to talk." And they don't. Throughout the whole episode, all the way up until the very end, when Vera comes up to Kristen and says, "Hey, it's time we talked." So again, it's just sort of a perfect bookend, starting things and bringing them back. And in fact, it was handled, I think, so incredibly well. I didn't even recognize there wasn't any dialogue in the episode until about a third of the way through, maybe almost half. But the tension of a break-in, the whole little Ocean's 11 type setup heist, doesn't require a lot of dialogue. The two, Elliot and Darlene, not having to use vocal cues in order to communicate is perfect for them. And that really ratcheted up the tension. So the tension of the episode itself, the acts that were happening, were enough to carry along all of these moments. Tied in, of course, with some brilliant use of music and just excellent staging, really makes this, so far to me personally, the best episode of the season. Alright, so of course the centerpiece of the episode is the break into Virtual Realty. And yes, if you're going to have a dialogue-less episode, a heist, perfect for holding the tension. You have to have something to hold those moments. And they fill this, I think, really well with a lot of interesting moments and misdirection. I mean, even from the very opening beginning where Darlene is coming in and she's trying to use her ID to access into Virtual Realty and it's not working. It's like, oh my God, is this going to go wrong? You know, we thought that Elliot had already printed out the card and the ID. Doesn't all of that work? But no, it's not. It not working is part of the plan. She gets the guard's attention, knocks over her bag, and when the guard goes down to get, that's when Elliot comes in, pulling off full-on parkour moves, busted through the entryway, and then running into the security server to hack in and thus give Darlene her identity. And that's really, again, a lot of things that are going on, a lot of building of identity in throughout this heist. We got Elliot building in Darlene's identity, or Dolores Hayes, which is awesome, in order to get into past the security front. And even then with that, as she leaves her phone so that the guard has to go down and grab it and give it to her. Now, of course, I usually grab my phone, when I pick it up by the sides, not here. But that's all right. It works for the episode. Gives us our thumbprint, which they then head upstairs to create a cool 3D printing. And if you guys didn't get the whole bit inside of the heater there, they're spraying super glue down. The fumes off of super glue stick to the oils in the thumbprint, which will then make the thumbprint visible. They scan that in, then able to do a 3D copy of the inverse of that, so then they can use the putty and get that. So they have a physical implement in order to push down onto the security scanner. So very cool, very great multi-stage. And again, this is one of the reasons we really watch this show. These types of things where we're seeing the technology, the hacking, the workarounds, the interesting ideas. It really what makes this episode so brilliantly. I mean, not only, again, shooting it without dialogue and still able to use your camera angles, able to use the music, able to use all of those things to hold that tension, to hold those moments and not make it feel like something was missing. And I think that was something that they just brilliantly did throughout this whole bit. And then, of course, once we get this, you can jump onto the elevator, hack in, use your little fireman access buttons there to head up to the top floor and thus get into the server rooms where they finally were able to get in and hack into the computers to build a new identity that they can then use from outside the bank in order to transfer all of their data. If you watch, it was giving full administration access, giving the password, making sure the password never expired. So a very cool way to get in and steal things without physically having to take anything out of there. They're not taking any money. All they have to do is give them their access. So just, again, wonderfully done. All the way up until it starts to fall apart, which is, again, another brilliantly, beautifully handled bit from being a small thing. Just the access door on the elevator being left a little bit ajar, not closed all the way. And of course, it's so that you can get back into the elevator and then use the fire code and everything to get back down. You don't want to necessarily have to relock and repick. That's my guess on that. Or just the rush of trying to get all of this done as the timer is counting down from the 40-minute firmware update that's Elliot put in to take out the security cameras. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. They did so many things. And again, just really cool. But having that one small little thing be just enough to raise a security guard's question. And I think that's also great because it makes the security guard smart. Usually in all of these, the security guards are dumb. They have no idea what they're doing. They're just a little derpy around. But these guys are actually a little smart, which would make sense if they're security in such a high-profile, high-security access building. So seeing that the access to the elevator door was left open, well, the only real secure part of the building, I guess the only thing that someone might want to break into would be the virtual reality servers upstairs, which is what brings the guard up, and then realizes, looking at his phone, hey, wait a minute. Did someone get in there? Anybody access this? Wait a minute. It says that I accessed it with his thumbprint. I certainly wasn't in there. I know where I've been. And that's when it all falls apart. Again, a brilliantly thing, but then just for one tiny little mistake, that's where it all begins to fall apart. And at this point, I think they do a really good job of switching tactics again in order to hold that tension. I mean, first off, we have the timer that's going down. Elliot here is realizing a minute left. They're not done doing all the typing. Darlene's not finished going on. And suddenly there's a guard coming in too. So all of this time tension building up as the guard's moving through the server racks. How far is he going to get? Is he going to get close enough? And then switching it into turning off the power. Now, how Elliot was able to see the sticker up on top of the ceiling there. Okay, we're going to give that. You have to give a few things in this episode in order to just let everything go on. And that's fine. Recognize it goes on, protected by whatever the security system is. I thought he was going to activate, honestly, the fire control, kind of like the gas stuff. You can't use water with servers. You got to use like CO2 or halon gas or something. You can't breathe that stuff. But it might have disrupted the security cameras. Didn't think they'd turn off the lights. But that's a great, another way of building up the tension. And again, perfectly using the darkness, the flashlight from the guard. And then meanwhile with Darlene and Elliot, you're just getting the nice little like readout lines from the display, all very cut. And it just, again, really just nice way of holding all of that up. Until, of course, the guard turns at the last minute and all we see is the empty keyboard pulled out. And boom, they're out. They're on the run. Elevator full up. Got to use the stairs. I'll get back to that. And then finally hitting the exit where cops arrived and Elliot sacrifices himself for Darlene. I mean, once the guard pops his face up there and sees Elliot, he knows that he's made, but Darlene hasn't been seen yet. And again, it's just another great use of that quiet dialogue between Darlene and Elliot. And I think that's one way that the whole heist bit and lack of dialogue worked, is we've seen these two work together. They are seamless when they're in it. So their lack of vocal communication is totally makes sense. And with just a singular look, that's Elliot telling Darlene, you go, I got this, pushes through the guard, and takes off in the full-on parkour run through the streets. And this is where things, I think, get a little carried away. Because it sets up great. I mean, it's who's going to expect this guy to run out and then pass the cops and take off, and just a great foot chase through the streets. They use, you know, the typical, it's not a baby in the carriage, it's full of cans to hold up tension there. A little cheesy, but again, still nicely done. And then progressing that slowly as he's running further, he's going further places. We're seeing him just slowly tired out, which is hilarious because I wouldn't have gone like half as far as he was able to do before I would have collapsed and the cops would have caught up to me. You know, again, interesting that there's only these two cops that are running after him. But again, it's a great bit of scene of just going through, running through the park, running through the ice rink. Why do you have to run into everyone on the ice rink? I don't know. And then finally up until falling down the cliff. And again, this is that great bit of music. We have the big tension, dun, 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 going. And then we hit the ice rink. It's a little happier, a little more perfect, and you know, for the Christmas mood. And then once he's out, he's on the cliff. It's dun, 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 very driving, very pounding music. Up until he then finally spots. It's great. Falls down the cliff, gets up, injured, stumbling, and then the cops running around at him again. Again, it just gives that never-stopping moment until, of course, he gets on the bus, and it looks like he is finally going to get away. Darlene, of course, brilliant. Again, this is again brilliant choices. I love this. She runs back upstairs, sees the cameras hiding out. What's she got to do? She's got to work. She's got to think on her feet. There's like a Jersey giant sweatery type thing. There's bottles of water. I'm wearing a wig, and there's a fitness place downstairs. Dress up and just... And again, that perfect thing of just being cool. Walk out the steps, sort of like just a little curve around so it looks like you're walking out of the fitness place that are on the first floor. Just a normal person. It's just brilliantly done. And again, no dialogue needed with that as well, because you want that tension being held with, are the cops going to recognize, are they not? Just excellently done. And then we have the the cops catching up to Elliot on the bus, which again is like, you think that he's gotten away. Once he's on the bus, the cops are on feet. Yeah, what are they going to do? Is he going to be able to get far enough? No, cops come up, pull brakes out, and that continues the run. And this is where things get a little ridiculous. This point, things start to get a little ridiculous. Because the cops were right behind him. We already know that Elliot seemed a little injured, definitely tired. Did he get some rest on the bus? Probably. Is he driven by adrenaline? Of course. But he runs, and they do the great tracking shot once they get around from the cops, and then he's up by the cliff, and he's running down the street, and they do that great singular camera tracking shot where he gets hit by the minivan, and they follow the camera around, and we see Elliot on the ground, and he sort of wakes, and he gets back up, and he's looking around, and all I'm thinking is, those cops were right behind him. He should have been caught right now. So they delay the cops more than they should have in this scene. And it's, again, one of the only moments within this whole chase where I was really kind of pulled out of it, where I'm really thinking, okay, this was a bit much. You focused on him being tired and exhausted and all the rest of the beginning. You made sense why this was being driven. He was almost out. But now, just to build this extra tension, they stretch things out. They make the cops a little bit further. They give him that moment to think and ponder, and what is it that he's going to do? And yeah, I was not expecting him to turn around and jump off of the cliff. I was wondering what he's letting on to. And then I was thinking, is there water there? Is there a mattress truck? No, just a cliff. Tumbles back down the rocks. God, he's got to be hurting. To the waiting Darlene, who of course used the app, the location app on her phone, again, to find Elliot. And then wraps the whole thing up, I think very sweetly, as they're just holding that moment, driving away, and Darlene's got her hand on the shifter, and Elliot just comes out and just sets his hand right on top. Just a brilliant, beautifully simple way to show that emotional reconnection, that thanks, that I'm with you, that Elliot and Darlene really need together. So a lot of tension throughout all of this, and a brilliantly simple way to just sum it all up at the end. But let's not go any further without talking about our Scene of the Week for this week, and that is the stairwell shot. I told you we were coming back to this. Again, I love, this is when the show's on top of it. Great directorial choices, great storytelling choices, great shot choices, all of that. And this scene just so perfectly handled. The triangular stairwell, which you don't really see, spinning the camera to keep everything disoriented, gives a very vertigo effect, which only builds the tension going on in the scene. That bright orange color also kind of off-putting and shocking. It was just, again, simple. The scenes to be awesome don't have to be all that much. This was just a great choice that as they're running away, as things have gone bad and they're doing the escape, it was a perfect choice of the triangular shape, those sharp angles, the orange color, the disorienting spin, following them running down the stairwell, that just was perfect to throw in, well, basically disorient, ratchet up the tension, get the adrenaline flowing, make everything feel very uncomfortable. It was a wonderful choice to do, a perfect moment to do it, and I loved it. Loved it. But of course, Elliot and Darlene weren't the only ones in this episode. We also have Dom desperately trying to have just a regular Christmas morning with the family and bringing the cookies, but being sidelined by Janice, sending her up on some dark army business to go look at this van of theirs up north that got burnt up and the guy killed and everything. I still don't understand why they went up north. Why leave that evidence? Why set it on fire? You're in New York. Dump it in the Hudson. There's rivers. I mean, the mob's got to dump bodies and things all the time, right? Just take at least some time in order to find them, and then you wouldn't have to go north and deal with losing things. And anyway, that just, I think, would have been a better choice. But yeah, so this is just, again, just Dom dealing with the crap of the Dark Army, handled well. She goes up there and she's just looking like, what am I supposed to do here? Brilliant, the idea of checking the red light cameras like that. And I guess she just walked by the cop's desk and stole the phone and then walked into the back and left it in. Then I guess, how did she know the cop's phone number? I mean, I guess the phones do have that as long as you don't leave it locked, and everybody in this world seems to have their phone locked. So, again, another little bit of, that's a bit much, but a brilliant choice as just distraction, and then Dom using her technical wizardry to hack into the cop's computer there and be able to give Janice access to the red light cameras, which, as we find eventually, does reveal Elliot and Darlene. So that's Dom's going to be next, her new mission, or not. Maybe. I mean, that's what the Dark Army wants her to do. But she's starting to turn things around herself. When she takes the dog out for a walk, sees the white vans. Remember, we had Janice threaten that they're always watching her mom. So now we have Dom maybe starting to turn things around. Where are these vans at? They're at Manor Street. You know, they're Overwatch. Here are the license numbers. What's she going to do with it? Maybe she doesn't know yet. But gathering data. She doesn't like being under the thumbs of the Dark Army. And, reconnecting with Darlene and Elliot might give her an opportunity to break out. Price, of course, waiting to find out where the Deus group is going to meet, which was sort of what he was following in the bits of breadcrumbs to this episode as well. Do have one question. Does he really have Elliot ID'd on his phone under his name with texts and stuff? Is that maybe not a smart security choice? Should be at least a surname, something, some sort of code between the two of them. Just, you're going up to White Rose and going to check your phone. Oh, you're talking to Elliot Alderson. Here's your text. Anyway, that was just my one thought when I saw him get the text about Tyrell, which, again, is sad, but doesn't really change anything, because when Price said that he was quitting as CEO, he didn't know that White Rose was going to name Tyrell. That didn't happen until afterwards. That was White Rose. White Rose wasn't even going to let Price resign. Was just going to say no, and then he thought about using Tyrell. So while this does seem to, from his reaction, throw him off, in some ways I don't think it should, because he'd already made this choice long before Tyrell was brought into it, which is, again, just one of the reasons I didn't care so much about last episode. I don't want to get into that. I stand by my review. Maybe I'm just not a big Tyrell fan. But yeah, I don't think this changes really anything for Price. But it was a cool little, again, breadcrumbs bit. Go out, tip the trombone player, and he's going to give you the card for Murray's Cleaners. Then you go to Murray's Cleaners, and you get your jacket. And in the jacket, that's where it says the meeting is going to be, which he then, of course, passes on to Elliot, because Elliot's got to be there in order to get the info off of their phones to do the final stealing from the bank. So, yeah. And lastly, real quick, of course, there is Krista, also looking to, looks like, meet her boyfriend's family for the first time. That's what it seemed to imply to me with those little messages. But of course, she decides, change of plans, maybe not go with the family, maybe it should just be you and me and do a little place all by ourselves together. Sure, seems nice. Probably later on wishes that she had gone, so she didn't go back to her apartment to get found by Vera, who, of course, has the final line of dialogue, "It's time we talk," perfectly. So, yeah, not a whole lot going on there. Just, Krista's going to be in trouble. Really does not want to be with Vera for any way, shape, or form. Maybe she just sort of left the ice cream there on the sidewalk. Maybe. All right, just a couple of small things. One, Ode to Joy. The first of our musical selections in this episode always reminds me of Die Hard. So it was even better when we find out the security guards are watching Die Hard on the TV during all of this. Another great Christmas heist movie. So seemingly very appropriate. Just kind of love that little tie-in. It was nice. What's up with the guard's water bottle, by the way? Or is it some protein drink or something? Is his name? For a moment I thought that he maybe stole his buddy's drink. And maybe he did. And we didn't really get any dialogue or names. It seemed really just persistent with him through most of the episode. And very bright green. There's a very cool moment in Elliot's apartment before the whole heist begins where he has sort of a little, I don't know, a cathartic breakdown. And it was just, again, it's another beautifully handled scene. We're really holding this emotion without necessarily knowing exactly what it's for. I mean, I guess we could feel that it's probably reflecting off of last episode where everything is sort of crashing in, you know, and I couldn't figure out. It's like, is he cold? Is that what he's holding his hands? Or is it Tyrell's blood on his hands that he's trying to rinse off? I don't remember him actually touching the wound or anything. And yeah, the loss of Tyrell could be hitting him. I mean, he also had his life threatened. It sort of put things in a certain clarity for him. So all of that hitting him at this moment, I think, kind of appropriate to have that emotional response before having to dive into the ultra-focused time necessity of a heist. So it was a very, just a well-done moment of everything really kind of collapsing down into Elliot and him just living in that space, even if it's just for a moment, before having to push everything away and re-engage with what he has to do right now. The text that Dom got in her car about Deegan McGuire being released, we saw him last in 402 real quick. He's an Irish mobster specializing in disappearing people that Dom was interviewing. So, not just a one-shot there, obviously somebody who's going to be recurring in future episodes. Alright, so next episode, I'm assuming we will get to the Deus group meeting at the Brentano, 9 p.m. Assuming it's that night, everything is moving quickly. So, last episode was Christmas Eve night. This episode, Christmas morning. Next episode, Christmas night. We're squeezing a lot in a very short period of time. But of course, from the previews, it looks like Dom confronts Darlene. I know they're going to have a lot to talk about. And hopefully maybe open the door up for everyone to break out from under the thumb of the Dark Army. But we will have to wait until next week to see that. Thank you, as always, for joining me with these reviews. I really do appreciate it. And if you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button. Apparently there's also a bell there you can hit for instant notifications whenever new videos drop out. So hit the like button, hit the bell button, and, you know, leave a comment down in the section below. I didn't get back to a lot of comments last week. Apparently I didn't have the popular opinion, and the internet is partially run by hate. So, but I do read them all, so I appreciate hearing what you guys think. Please leave your thoughts down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe. We know we got the rest of this season, the rest of these season series to go, final season, but we are also doing Walking Dead and A Mandalorian. Star Wars series starts next Tuesday, week from Tuesday, on the 12th. Really looking forward to that. Don't want to miss those reviews. I've got stuff to show too. And you won't if you're a subscriber. Do that by clicking this button right here. And we'll throw up a couple of our latest reviews right here for you to check out. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.